and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be looking at my contribution as a character designer working on Marvel Animation's Eyes of Wakanda. If you haven't seen the show yet, it's showing on Disney Plus. Make sure to check it out. If you haven't yet subscribed, don't forget to do that. Let's dive in. Back then on the show, so let me just give you like some context. There's going to be like a lot of storytelling in between because I will be sharing my experience working on this. I was hired on the project back in August 2021, and I was hired as one of the early concept artists. So they wanted us to do like a first take on the character design. This was like a lineup of characters, and while working on this project in the very early days, I couldn't tell who the other artists were. We had no contact with each other, so we just had to work like in isolated booths kind of. And I remember that it was very challenging because it was like 3 weeks. They gave us 3 weeks and it was like a probation period. So the quality of work you put out at that point really mattered as to whether you were going to continue on the project or not. And I was like really psyched. First of all, I was very fortunate to have had that opportunity in the first place. But then I also wanted to put my best foot forward, and I put all my heart and soul into this thing, you know. So I went in and I started designing these characters, and this is the very first set of characters. First of all, let me also say that Marvel gave me like a limited number of images that I can share on social media. So it's just 20. I can only share 20 images. So I can't go back to the previous, like the rough sketches of what I did to get to this point, because it's not, I didn't get like an approval for that. So, but I believe that with what I have here, you can kind of get an idea of what I went through. While designing these characters, I was actually listening to Ludwig Göransson's Black Panther Casino Brawl. Like, yo, that soundtrack, I was just playing this thing on repeat over and over again as I was trying to get my mind into that like flow state. Quick one, I recently announced a masterclass titled Ethnic Character Design for Animation. This course is for intermediate level artists who are looking to improve their portfolio to include culturally grounded characters. This course starts in September on the 20th, and the deadline for enrollment is on the 18th of September. The link is in the description. The class size is limited to 20, so make sure you register now. We don't get to see all these characters in the show. If you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. But the character we get to see is Noni, and Noni was originally Brisa. So this character right here is the character that ends up being Noni on the show. And yo, I was so elated to get to see that they were actually retaining the style that I came up with at the very early stages of the show. And I couldn't have done this without the support of the team at Marvel Studios. I can't list all the names, but I'm just going to list one person that was very important to me while working on this, and this was Joshua James Shaw. Joshua James Shaw was the character supervisor on the project, and he was able to guide us, all of us, to make sure that we kind of maintain the style that was created from the very onset of the show. So this was the first set of characters I did. As you can see, I had like some notes here because I like to make notes. I mean, I wasn't too sure how they were going to take the idea of me putting notes down here, but I just took the risk anyway because I felt like I needed to explain where my head was at during the creation process. So I was thinking about how this lady was like a rhino and stuff, and so I was just thinking about the shape language and everything. If you've watched the show, I'm sure you would have not seen any of these characters 1, 2, 3, 4. You would not see anything like that on the show because the story changed. Like the story changed at some point during production, so we ended up retaining only this one. But you can see the the shape language, the shape languages that I came up with while designing these characters. Noni is like a diamond shape, like a combination of two triangles. I've always I've always loved to break things down like this because it helps me to understand the character better and to be able to capture in the best possible way what I think the personality of the character is. At the time, she was supposed to be like this aggressive type of person, like she doesn't follow the rules and stuff, and that ended up being Noni because Noni is also like this obstinate, like independent-minded person, and yeah, Brisa just happened to fit into that mold as well. So I believe that's why it was maintained during the show for the rest of the show. So that's that for the first set of designs. Looking at the next one, so this was when I went in and at this point we were looking at Noni being like from the border tribe, and so I did my research to look at the designs for Black Panther, and I noticed that the border tribe, that's I forget the name of the character, that's the guy with the rhino. I forget his name, but he was from the border tribe, and most of them got to wear like this wrap around their body, this blue. It was mostly blue, blue wrap. So I used the idea of the blue for the border tribe to design her. I also stole this idea from one of the concept arts that was done for the for Black Panther. We had access to like the art book, of Black Panther, and so when I looked through the art book, I got some ideas for her from there, and that's where I got this idea of wrapping this stuff around her shoulders. So I just also went to do some other like rough sketches here in black and white. So I just want to break out to tell you a story. Like while working on this thing, my PC crashed. It was so annoying because after paying for the license for Photoshop, I ended up going through this very difficult period, this difficult stage because I was working on this thing. I did a couple of sketches for like, it took me like maybe like a week's worth of work on doing some sketches for this Brisa at the time, and I encountered a hurdle where my computer crashed, and it was really like I was so devastated. Like I spent the rest of that day trying to figure out how to recover the files and all. And after searching online for all the possible ways to resolve this thing, it didn't work out. But I had to move on. So I bit the bullet and decided to do everything again. So I did all the sketches again. All the sketches you see, 1, 2, 3. I had to do them in like a day or two, because I had to also deliver, and the client doesn't care about, Marvel. I don't think they cared about whether my PC crashed or anything. They just wanted you to deliver on the job. So I had to go through all of that hardship and to figure out how to draw this thing as quickly as possible. So that's why I really hate these sketches, because they look very ugly. Maybe because I had to do it over again, but anyways, that's that for the second image. For the third image, I was just thinking about how can I give like a story moment, like how can I explore ideas around a story that kind of integrates these 5 characters together, because initially the story concept was around a bunch of newbie Dora Milaje characters. So I was thinking about how do we give them like a story moment. So in this image between these two, they're doing like a game in Nigeria we call 10-10. So they get to play with their legs and stuff like that. I have all the description here at the bottom. Then looking at the next set, I was thinking of how can I do something that captures like a relationship, or an emotional moment between these two characters. And I decided to do this painting. This Yifet, that's the youngest one. She's like a softie and like the youngest of all of them, and almost like the last born in a family. So I was just trying to show how, she kind of is looking up to this one as an elder sister or something like that, and while she's making her hair and stuff. So that was just my own interpretation of the characters. And then also for the last one, I did like she was walking out at the gym. As you can see, she's like she's built, like she's sort of muscular and stuff. So I tried to I tried to capture that. I tried to capture that here by, you know, putting her to work. Like maybe she's working out in the gym or something. And these were like the story ideas I came up with for this one. Then moving on to when, production has really picked up and had gone in and developed Noni like a lot further. I just want to say something that I actually had a challenge redrawing Noni, and this is weird because I cannot explain it. I can't explain it because I drew Noni, the first take of Noni, this one, the Brisa one was almost like the perfect sketch. So I tried to draw her a couple of times again, and I couldn't get the exact proportions right. Like I couldn't get her to look as appealing as this particular sketch. So I remember then Joshua James Shaw telling me, you don't have to draw this thing again. Just take the first design you did and do like a draw over on top of that. And that's how I went in and did like a draw over on top of that to arrive at what I have here. So I just did like a color pass, a hard color pass over everything, and then refined all the colors and all. As you can see, her nose is not really showing, and there's a reason for this, is the style of the show. So the style of the show is, first of all, shout out to Craig Elliott. Craig Elliott is a legend. Like he was the perfect production designer for this show. Like I couldn't imagine anybody else nailing it as well as he did. Like you need to see how picturesque the animation is. Like you can almost pause a frame and take a screenshot and frame that and put that in your living room. Like he really went in with the painting style and all of that. He and August Hall. August Hall was the art director, and the art style was the not the art style, the production design style was, we got inspiration from, the inspiration at the time, from what I'm aware of, was inspired by Elephant in the Room. Elephant in the Room was an episode from Disney Shorts. There's a Disney Short Circuit or something like that. It was one of the shorts from Disney Short Circuit, and that was kind of where the style of the show came from. But of course, it was developed a lot further, beyond Elephant in the Room, because all the painting styles and all of that were gotten from like old master painters and stuff like that. So this costume of Noni is something that I designed, but it wasn't designed by me alone, because I had like references. I had reference images from work that was already done by Brie Henderson. I never met Brie Henderson, sadly enough, while working on the show, but I saw her designs and they were given to me at this point, and I had to go back and kind of refine some of those things, refine the patterns, and all of that to get to what we have here. So that's that for that. And then I went in and I was, tasked with the responsibility of figuring out what the outfit of the lion soldiers, the lion guards would be. So I worked on the lion guards, and at this point, I remember I just came out from sickness. Like I had something similar to COVID at the time. This was in 2021, no, 2022. And I just came out from a very grave illness at this point, and I feel like I was really invigorated, because after going through that 1 week of not having to do any work and coming back, it almost like it renewed my vigor. My creative juices were flowing. Like, I got all of that back, because I kind of lost it at some point, because you're just churning out work week to week, week to week, back to back, and it gets to a point where you just kind of plateau, and you're not able to go past a certain level. Your inspirations are kind of stale. You're just doing like, bringing almost like regurgitating the same stuff over and over again. So that sickness kind of helped me to reset. And then after that sickness, this was like the first set of designs I did. And yeah, I was kind of trying to find the lion concept, for the lion idea for his guards. Like they're supposed to wear like a type of vest, and the vest would is something that Noni would wear at some point to kind of disguise herself, to infiltrate the lion fortress. So these were the sets of designs I came up with, but I ended up not I ended up with something different at the end of the day. This was what I ended up with at the end of the day. We went through a lot of iterations, feedback from Craig Elliott, the directors, and all of that, and my supervisor as well, to get to this. And this was what the guards ended up wearing. So these are like different versions of Noni again. I did all these versions, but this is not the final version we see in the show. I don't know who did the actual final version we see in the show. They're like patterns on her outfits, something like, they're like patterns here. I wasn't the one who did that. I don't know who did that, but it was actually a fantastic choice, because this looks this looks kind of boring. So they added some patterns there and stuff like that, which made it even better. Then I also had to do like a version where where she has her hood up. So that's the version I came up with, where she's like wearing a hood to cover her head. Yep. So that's that for, and then also I had to do like a wet version, because she was going to jump into water. So I had to do like a version where she's like drenched in water and stuff. This wasn't used. This wasn't used at the end of the day. I don't know why. I guess for practicality reasons, it wasn't retained, because having to achieve this type of texturing here would have been very difficult. So I guess they just ended up with what they ended up with on the show. But I noticed that this wasn't, they didn't figure out how to achieve this for the actual show. And then also, she was going to get into a fight, so I had to rip her clothes and all of that. And then the ripped clothes will end up being wet and stuff. So that's that for that one. Then moving on, I worked on the Lion Guards. So this was supposed to be like the captain of the Lion Guards. So it's almost like the general of the army or something like that. So, but we didn't end up going with this, because I have no idea why we didn't end up going with this, but I'm glad we didn't end up going with this, because it would have been a bit of a distraction in comparison to Lion, because his costume is like really loud, and so we don't want, I guess it didn't make sense for us to with this. And then this shape kind of looks like a tiger. So I'm sure it didn't quite work. So I added like a crest. So this crest that was added to his shoulder, I actually got this from the VizDev department, because the VizDev guys, that's the guys doing the environment stuff, they were doing like really awesome stuff, because we had meetings, we had team calls every week, and we got to share each other's, we got to see what every other person was working on. So I saw some of the like really cool patterns, that the cool symbol and seal that they had created on in the VizDev department. So I requested for it and used that as to create like a shoulder shield on his arm. Then I mean, to get approval for this stuff I'm sharing online, I didn't get approval, I didn't get clearance for references, because you're required to use references to be able to defend your designs. So there are a lot of references that were in the actual image that I had to take out, because I didn't get clearance for that. But most of these things, like this thing on his arm, it was gotten from like real African references. Like there's a headdress I think it's probably from the Congo or something like that. There's a headdress, and I used that headdress for his arm and stuff like that. So yeah, that's that for the captain. I think we ended up going with this guy as the captain. From what I noticed, I think this guy was supposed to be like the captain. So I did unmasked versions as well as masked versions. The mask, this actual mask that we ended up with, was not created by me. It was created by Mindili. Guys, if you've not heard of Mindili, or if you haven't seen her work, you should check her out. Mindili is a legend. Like, Mindili was on beast mode. Why? Like, I'm not even joking. Like, Mindili was on beast mode on this project. Like, if I did 10% of the work, Mindy probably did like 80%. Like, it was that crazy. Mindy was churning out work like clockwork. It was crazy. So so I had to do like different versions, different genders and stuff like that. So this was what we came up with. Then the next one is, so I had to do like head options, because the idea is that sometimes they would take off their mask, like when they get to fight and stuff like that, or also for the guys modeling, because you can't just model a blank face and then put a mask on it. You have to actually model a face. So some of the faces that we came up with, so that I had to come up with, the ones you see on the screen right now. And I was also required to make them as diverse as possible. As you can see, this guy kind of looks like he's from I don't know, South America or something like that. It's like, and then this one is like an Indian or something like that, a red Indian. This one is a Caucasian. This one is from Asia. This one is from India. This one is also from Americas and stuff. So yeah, I had to make it diverse, because he was recruiting people from different parts of the world. Like, he was a sea voyager. That's the lion. Lion's like a sea voyager and stuff, and he conquered like different territories, and in the process, he gets to recruit them as soldiers and stuff. So that was the idea behind that. Then the lion chain makers. So if you notice when you watch the show, episode 1, by the way, all these characters I've shown so far are episode 1. When you watch episode 1, you see there's a part where some people are like in a forge, like forging, what's it called? Forging like cuffs, shackles, like cuffs for the hands and stuff. And these were the guys that were doing that. We call them lion chain makers. And whereas I was tasked with having to design them, their armor, their clothes, because they would be dealing with like red hot metal and stuff. So I had to give them like really thick gloves and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's that for them. Then moving on to, so these are like the harem ladies. We call them harem wives, lions, the wives of the lion. So he, of course, when he gets slaves along the way, and then these slaves are forced into marriage and stuff like that. If you watch episode 1, you see there's a part where some ladies are introduced to this circle of women, and so I was responsible for designing the costume for that. I kind of built, so it's hard to take responsibility for everything, because a lot of people contribute to stuff at different points, so I think I think I kind of built on what Steve Gordon worked on to get to this point. So Steve Gordon was also a character designer on the project. We're like so there was Steve Gordon, there was me, there was Mindy Lee, there was Mel Milton, and then the lead character designer was Daniel Holland. So it was like a really small team, but the work was really interesting and diverse amongst all of us. So I had to design the faces of some of the wives and stuff. I remember seeing this face. I remember seeing this face on the show. I'm not sure if I saw this one, but yeah. Yeah, so these were some of the crowd characters I designed. Then the seamstresses. So we had like in this same scene, we had like some seamstresses that were making up the ladies, like making their clothes and wearing their makeup and stuff like that. So these were the three ladies that were doing that. I designed them as some crowd characters. You notice something I also do that I try to make them as different as possible. Like you can see this woman's shape is almost like rectangular, while this one is it's almost like a rounded rectangle, and this one is a long rectangle. So I try to give them, and then also their skin, like this woman is looking like she's from North Africa or something like that. And then this one is like maybe West Africa. And then this one is probably like maybe this could pass for any part of Africa, especially South Africa, East Africa, or Central Africa, and probably even West Africa as well. Yep. So moving on to the next one. So this is now we're moving on to episode 2. In episode 2, I designed old Noni. This wasn't um, that much of a headache because I already had like Noni, so I just took the original Noni and just aged her. So and then she had like eye patch. This eye patch and the inner vest were originally designed by Mindy. Originally designed by Mindy, and I just took what she had done. It was really rough, and then I just took all of that and just kind of polished it and added, and so I added the robe to it. I added the robe and stuff like that. Yep. So this wasn't so much. This wasn't so much of a headache. Then I was required to do like a character model sheet. So if you know anything about character model sheets, you do like different views. You do the front view, the side view, actually the three-quarter view, three-quarter front view, side view, and back. So that was what I did. Then moving on. So Memnon, the Memnon you see on the screen, like the final Memnon you see, was not my design. I don't know. I think it was probably between Mindy and Steve Gordon. I'm not really sure, but I think it was Mindy. All the armor on his arm, all that shit, man. That was Mindy. Like Mindy is a beast. Like she did so much awesome work on this thing. But this was just my own pass. At some point, I was given the assignment to work on him, and this was what I came up with. There were a couple of heads. I did like a couple of head sketches before the director went with chose this one, and then I just took that one and kind of developed it into this one. And at this point, I remember then they were talking a lot about the rendering style, like how they wanted the show to look in terms of rendering. We're looking at, like I said, a combination of elephants in the room and a couple of other paintings, like artistic paintings. But I also remember somebody kind of hinting at Spider-Verse at some point, but I kind of just merged all of that together to come up with this, and this was what I thought was decent enough at the time. But I'm glad that it's evolved and became what it is today, because the Memnon we see on the screen today is fantastic. So moving on to High Councilman. So the High Councilman is one of the characters I worked on. He ended up showing up in episode 3, and he went through a couple of iterations to get to this, but yeah, this is what we finally see on the screen. I came up with this idea of giving him like cuffs, giving him like cuffs that had like Wakandan inscriptions on it. So when you unfold the cuffs, it gives you like this Wakandan inscriptions on it. I thought it was a cool idea, so I just came up with that, and they actually liked it, and it ended up in the final picture. Yeah, and then I went through a lot of iterations to come up with the drapery, the drapery we see here, but I think the director ended up with this one. So yeah, this was the one we ended up seeing on the screen, and yep, that's that. So moving on, I worked on Kuda and Tafari. This went through a ton of iterations because, like I said, I couldn't get like clearance to show all of that. So this is what I'm able to show. I only had to select like the absolute best 20 images that I would love the world to see. And this is what I came up with. This is one of them I came up with. I also had insight that there's going to be like an art book. I hope that the art book comes out and you get to see the parts of the designs that I didn't get to show you in this video. So I worked on Kuda, and I wanted Kuda to be like this very rigid and solid guy, like someone that you cannot easily move. You know, he's very strong and rigid. Uh, and then also there was a joke. There was a joke on one of the calls, one of the team calls, where someone said that he has a very small forehead because he has no brains in it. You know, I don't know if that's what I was thinking about when I designed it, but I was just trying to push because the style so far in the show is pretty it's pretty straightforward. Like we try to push the eyes as high up in the face as possible with most of the characters. As you can see, it's also the same thing here. We try to push the eyes up, so it's not like he has no brains, but you know, I was just kind of staying true to the style and stuff like that. So that's that for Kuda. I like this design a lot because I had to incorporate a lot of African components to it. Like the vest is wearing. I was thinking about the agbada. I don't know if you guys know of an agbada. If you're if you're Nigerian, I'm sure the term agbada is not new to you. But for those of us who are not Nigerians or who are not familiar with Nigerian culture, agbada is like an outfit you wear that you kind of wrap over your shoulders. But I had to be careful with the idea of the agbada because you can't really use an agbada in combat situations if you think about it, because this is like excess cloth hanging over your shoulder and it can easily hook on something and get you killed. So I had to tone that down, dial that back a little bit, and instead of the agbada, I went with like a vest, and then you can see he's wearing something that looks like the regular native outfits that we wear in Nigeria, modern native tops we wear in Nigeria. Give him like some weave here. This this arm, this metallic thing was inspired by the 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 anklets that people from the Himba tribe in Namibia and Angola, they get to wear on their legs. They get to wear on their feet, close to their feet, like on their ankles. You know, so that was the idea of this thing. Like, I had to pull ideas from real stuff, you know, to get to what we have here. Then this is like a sash that is tied around his waist. So sashes are like long tapestries that have like embroideries and stuff like that on top of it. It's a Yoruba thing. It's from the Yoruba tribe. So put the sashes there, and I like the sashes a lot, like in the animation, because when you watch the show, you see that when they run or when they are hit by a powerful wind, there's a part in the beginning of the in the opening montage of the show where where there's an explosion and then we see the thing is like dangling in the air. Like, it's just beautiful. That's secondary animation. Like, that's fantastic. I really liked that idea, to give that like secondary animation. Then for his, everything you see here, like the pants, this is heavily, like these things were heavily referenced from real outfits, like Yoruba tribe. I need to spell Yoruba properly. Yoruba, from the Yoruba tribe in Nigeria. Most of these things, the embroidery, the patterns, these patterns, they're from Yoruba tribe. Some of these symbols, I'm not really sure where this symbol was from. I think it's either Hausa. This one is definitely Hausa. This is definitely Hausa. Yeah, and that's why I really like these characters, because I had to pull like from the depths of my knowledge about Africa, about African tribes, to be able to design this thing to be as culture specific as possible. And of course, I just replicated the same thing on this guy, so there's nothing special besides his hair. I did like a couple of iterations on this hair to be able to come up with what we have here. His name is Tafari, which is similar to a popular Ethiopian ruler whose name was Tafari. I think that's where Rastafarian, the whole Rastafarian movement came from his name. So this was almost like an homage to that particular ruler from Ethiopia. And coincidentally, that episode was also about, it was also set in Ethiopia as well. So, and then I just added some beads. Sorry, not beads, cowries. I added cowries to his hair. And yeah, that's how I was able to come up with these guys. I really like them. I like their animation. They were really fun to see on the screen. Like the banter between the two of them was almost like father and son type of thing, and it was really cool. Then also, moving on, I had to do like a casual version for both of them at the point where they get to present themselves to the council to explain their failed mission in quotes. No spoilers. Again, I'm not talking about the story. This is just like art. This video is not about story or anything like that. It's just the art. Especially the art I contributed to it. Yeah, then this is him in his prince attire. This attire went through a lot of iterations because at first, the first set of designs I did for this guy, it was looking like an African prince going to a prom. That was actually the description that the director gave, and I laughed because he said that in the nicest way possible, but it was definitely a jab at me, like, yo, what the hell are you doing? You're not supposed to design this guy to look like a black American going to a prom, or like the son of the prince of Zamunda, something like that. This is supposed to be like a real African prince. So I had to go back and work on it. I think I kind of got inspiration from T'Challa's outfits in Black Panther for this one, then mixed up some things here and there. The purple and gold accents are clearly because he's from the Golden City. So the Golden City, their colors are purple and gold, while the mining tribe, Kuda, is from the mining tribe. And the mining tribe, if you remember, their colors are like red and orange. So that's how I came up with the colors. Yeah. So then for Kuda, I had to do like two versions because first of all, this thing went through a lot of iterations. This arm sling, because the first arm sling I designed for him was a bit too unsophisticated, for Wakandan. So it was too plain, like it was just fabric, fabric and then stuff hanging over his neck. And the director was like, man, this is cool, but it doesn't really reflect how sophisticated the Wakandan society is. So I had to go back, find references to polish this thing and upgrade it to make it look cooler and stuff like that. And then after I did that, they also requested for like two versions. Like they requested for, because at first the strap was very plain, like there were no patterns on it. So they asked me to go do like some Wakandan triangular patterns on it, and then I came back with these two options, and they ended up going with this one. So that's that. Then the outfit he's actually wearing, I got this inspiration of the outfit from the Zulu tribe, in South Africa. They get to wear this thing. I don't know what it's called, but they wear this outfit, like they wear this thing that is made from leopard skin. But then the leopard skin he's wearing is dark. It's like it's really dark. So I I did this intentionally because I wanted to make it different. Like I didn't want the actual literal leopard skin. Yeah, I wanted something different. Then also I just found a way to incorporate the signature Black Panther tiger claws or lion claws and stuff to it to make it what it is. And yeah, I was kind of happy with what I came up with. And luckily for me, it was approved and we got to see it in the big screen. So moving on, so I had to fade out the bodies because I didn't work on the body. Mindy worked on the body, so I didn't want to give any impression that I was the one who worked on that. So I worked on only the masks. So I was given the liberty to work on different versions of the mask for the future Dora. And first of all, I must say that Mindy's work was absolutely fantastic. Like I said, Mindy was a beast on this project, and I really loved her designs. You can see her designs were fantastic, and they were all different, really cool. So I was given the honors to work on some mask versions. I don't know which mask actually made it because I haven't really like zoomed in to look at them, but um, I was honored to have the opportunity to do this anyway. And this is what I came up with. These different versions. So that was that for the future Dora. Then these are some characters that you never got to see on the screen. Yeah, I kind of feel bad that I didn't see these characters on the screen, but hey, it's all part of it's part of the nature of our work. You do something, you do some things, you see them, you do some things, you don't see them. This is the merchant tribe from Wakanda. The merchant tribe is mostly purple and magenta. Purple and magenta, yes, because the blue is the border tribe. So these guys were mostly like purple and magenta. So I just was like just was looking for, and I noticed because I had to go back and I looked at the references from the art books, the Black Panther art books, and did my own research online also to find that there were specific tribes that some of these that's real tribes that some of these Wakandan tribes were used to design Wakandan tribes to keep them grounded. So I know that the river tribe leaned towards the Ethiopians, towards the Mosi tribe, the Ethiopians and all. I knew that I learned that the Golden City was mostly Zulu and Zulu, Ndebele, Osa tribes from South Africa and all of that. Anyway, so these ones were the merchant tribe was like from North Africa, Northern Africa, and it was fun having to do this because this guy was like Hausa to me. I was just thinking about the Hausa. I was thinking about Hausa aesthetics, so I got some idea from the Hausa tribe for this one. Um, uh, I like the X thing going on here and his belts and stuff. Like that's what I was thinking about. I just wanted to make it as unique as possible. I also like his pointy sandals and stuff. Yeah, I also paid a lot of attention to sandals as well, because if you look at this one, I tried to make his sandals, you can see the gold, trim on the sandals and stuff. Yeah, I really paid attention to all these details. Then this lady was inspired by Fulani and Fulani and I think it's Tuareg. I think it's Tuareg, yeah. So this for this lady. So you can see most of these shapes are from the Tuareg tribe in Northern Africa. Then I was also thinking about shape, right? And I was thinking about the shape. I really like this shape. I like how this guy's head is like the headdress makes his head like really unusually long and stuff. I was just thinking about shapes generally. For this guy, I think this guy is also inspired by Tuareg as well. I think he's inspired by Tuareg and does he have a little bit of Amazigh? I think he has a little bit of Amazigh on it. But this woman is definitely Amazigh, and most of the tribes from Tunis. I'm not sure I remember the names now, because at the time I had all those names, and I did proper research for all these things. But she's mostly I think she's mostly Amazigh and stuff, mostly Amazigh. So that was that for the merchant tribe. I really like these guys. I really like this lineup. So initially the story, I'm not allowed to speak about the story because I don't want to talk about story, but there was supposed to be like a part of the story where all these different tribes will have like a sort of celebration or a gathering. Let me not say celebration, a gathering, and then we'd see all these different representatives from the different tribes. So that was the idea of this crowd characters, but we didn't end up seeing that in the final show. Then for the mining tribe, so yeah, for the mining tribe, you can see like this is Kenya, this is like Maasai, clearly. How do you spell Maasai? I think it's Maasai. Yeah. So this is clearly Maasai from Kenya. I don't like this. His shin is like it's not really working for me. Sometimes when I look at these works, I'm really pissed. Like, I mean, why is this thing floating on his arm? It's supposed to be like resting on his hands. If I had an opportunity to do this again, I definitely would not do it this way. So, but anyways, it was fun. It was fun. This thing hang on his neck. I think I got this from I think it's from Himba. Then this woman is clearly Himba, like the hair. If you look at the hair, this type of hair with the clay colors and stuff, this is clearly Himba. I think I got this from, I can't remember where I got this, but it was close to Southern Africa. I got this idea. Yeah, and then also all these things, I think they're from Kenya as well. They get to wear like this. They get to wear like rings on their ankles, on their shins. Again, like I said, I always like to pay attention to slippers like sandals. You can see that they all have different sandals. Look at their feet. They all have different type of sandals because I think that specificity is something that makes character design stand out. So I just was trying to make it as specific as possible. I like this guy a lot. Like I really like this guy. I like his earring. I got this earring concept from a native tribe from I think it's probably an Asian native tribe or thereabout, maybe from East Asia or something like that, like a very native tribe. But I like that it just really fit well with his silhouette. And if you look very well, all these characters have really strong silhouettes. Like this woman with 3 circles standing on her head. This is like a silhouette right there. I was always thinking about silhouette and shapes. At first, this guy wasn't looking like this. I had to refine it. I think I got a note from Joshua to refine this guy, and that's how it became as good as what it is. Then I added like this beads. I don't even know the logic behind these beads because it looks weird that we have beads that are as rigid as this. But anyway, it looks cool. Like when you zoom out, it kind of looks cool. That was why I kept that. This woman is probably my least favorite, but I did get a lot of inspiration from East Africa as well. I think this stuff is from the it's from an East African tribe. I don't remember the name right now. I think it's either a Himba or something. I don't remember the names of the tribes right now. This one too was also from East Africa. I think it's from Ethiopia or something. They get to talk these things in their head and stuff. Yeah, and then all these hanging beads and stuff. So some of all these things are ways of directing the eyes. Like some of these things are not necessarily based on like, because I learned a lot on this project, and Joshua really pointed some things out to us about eye movements, and this was kind of like a way of creating like eye movements towards her face, you know. Yeah, so that's that for the mining tribe. Moving on to the river tribe. So the river tribe, like I said, is inspired by tribes in Eastern Africa, but towards the Horn of Africa. That's the Somalian, Ethiopian side of Africa, Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia. So this guy is inspired by the Mosi tribe. So in there's a tribe in Ethiopia called the Mosi tribe, and they kind of have like all these horns, and they put like these really big flat discs in their lip and stuff like that. So it's like really round. I think I had one of the iterations of this guy had something like that, but they asked me to take it out. I think probably for practicality reasons. So these are some things about CG design, something about character design for CG. You have to think about the practicality of what you are designing. You know, is it how easy or difficult is it going to be for the animators to animate and to rig? How easy will it be for the character to be modeled first of all, rigged, and then animated? You know, so I had to get rid of that to come up with this one. And the river tribe, their colors is mostly green. The color is mostly green and yellow. So I like this woman. Like I really like this woman. I I tried to make her to give her like this enui, if that is that what they call it, enui. Yeah, I tried to give her like so her eyes are like kind of sleepy and stuff. I also tried to pay attention to the way her hair looks. I did like a another version of the hair from back view so that the animators will get to see what it looks like from behind. And she has this thing hanging on her neck. I like this stuff. Looking at it now, it's really nice. It came out nice. Yeah, and then some of all these things too were from. I remember the tribes where I got all these things from, but the names to I can't really. I think this is Bana. I think there's a tribe called Bana from Ethiopia or something like that. The Bana tribe. That's where I got some of these aesthetics from. Um, Again, like I said, I always like to. I always pay attention to the shoes and the slippers, you know, to make them as unique as possible, and that's what I try to do with all of them. This guy, I like this guy because when I was thinking about the river tribe, I was like, okay, what can I what aesthetic can I put on this guy to make him stand out to kind of be a clear description, or you know, a derivative idea from them being living by the river. So I thought about it. Okay, what about crocodile? So maybe what if this guy had like a croc, a skinned croc, that is hanging on his neck and stuff, hanging over his shoulder, and I just put this thing there, and it kind of works for me. And I remember sharing this thing in the on the call, on the team call, and they're like, "Yo, this is actually nice. Like you actually did think through this, think this through to come up with this idea, and people really liked it." Yeah, then this one, I don't remember the tribe, but I got a literal reference that was very similar. Like this hat was from an actual picture, an actual photograph. And then I just like put it on top of her head, added like this ring, this disc on her nose and stuff. Yeah, I played around with some of these things here to give like an interesting shape and stuff. Again, the slippers are unique. They are very unique from the others. So that was that. And then last but not the least, I had like this Ethiopian, I was supposed to work like on Ethiopian warriors. Should I say warriors or soldiers? Because there was like a war between the Italians and the Ethiopians in episode 4. So we were required to populate the story world with characters fighting each other and like in a battle and stuff. So I was given the assignment to design some characters, and that's when these ones were created. I used a lot of references from actual Ethiopian pictures, and some of the references, most of the references that were used in the design of this project were from like really old pre-colonial type of photos. Like the photographs were mostly black and white, so there are no colors in the pictures, and I liked it that way because then you have room to give it any color you want and stuff. But the pictures were mostly very old pictures, and working on Eyes of Wakanda was really awesome because I got to build like a very large archive of references. Right now, I feel like I probably have the largest references of pre-colonial pictures that any artist has. I'm so glad that I had to go that far to get references because I get to be able to use that for other work as well. There are other projects I've worked on for my personal projects as well as for clients that I've used the same like reference photos. So this was really like an awesome exercise. Back to what I was saying. So came up with the shield. This shield is also a reference actual Ethiopian um, from actual Ethiopian photographs. This shield also very similar to this one. Then I just added like a female in between and made her look like there's a tribe called Amara. I wasn't sure about the spelling, so I had to quickly Google that. Amara, which is inspired by Amara, the Amara tribe. This is kind of how they dress. And so I just gave her a spear. And this is grounded. This guy is also from real Ethiopian references. And I like his pants. I like the details of the pants there. Again, if you look at his slippers, his sandals, you can see that they are very specific designs there for her as well, and for this guy. We had like a very large. Somebody was graceful enough to come up with a very large archive of sandals from pre-colonial times, and that was where we kind of fed our eyes and used as references. And we didn't just use them literally, because that's one thing about reference. You don't just use them literally. You have to also be able to tweak them and mix them to come up with something unique and stuff. So these are some of the designs that I did for Eyes of Wakanda, and I'm glad I was able to share this process with you. I know it was like really boring because this is a very long video. I didn't plan for the video to be this long, but I was really excited and I geeked out, in the process of creating this video to spend so much time having to go through the details of the design and stuff, the design process. But I'm glad you were able to stay this long to be able to pick one or two information, hopefully that you could use as a designer to improve your work. Or maybe you're not a character designer, you're probably just someone who wants to learn more about the process, or who decided to watch this video to appreciate the process that goes into designing characters that end up becoming mainstream in actual animated shows. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you guys in the next video.